Let's bring in our friend Seth Joyner and get his opinion on it. Seth, you think I'm in the room there, right, when I say that the Eagles probably have a number and maybe some of the framework worked out already, that they know where they are, and depending on the draft, what they do at 10 and 30, maybe you announce it after because you still got a lot of holes to fill on this team. Do you think they've got the framework worked out?
Oh, no doubt about it. They've been talking about it since the day after the Super Bowl was over. So, you take care of things in the proper order that they need to be taken care of. Free agency came, they had to navigate that. A lot of things probably transpired in free agency that they didn't anticipate transpiring. You make the move with Lane. You bring in 5 guys that you sign on 1-year deals, all of them $2 million or less. So this is clearly a run for another, Super Bowl. You're trying to bring all these pieces together and try to find out where you can place them and how they fit, as far as the safety and the linebacker position is concerned. But you're trying to do it, somewhat on the cheap, if you will, because you're not going after a guy like Bobby Wagner where you would have had to, put up $8 million in order to sign him. You bring in 2 guys under $2 million each. It makes sense if it works out. If it doesn't work out, then it's going to be problematic, if that defense is leaking oil. But as far as, Jalen Hurts is concerned, I think they have a framework. The next thing in line of priority, is the draft. Trying to figure out whether you're going to pick at 10 and pick at 30, or whether you're going to package those up and move in the draft and try to acquire more, later round draft picks. I think all of those things play a significant role in what they're going to do with Jalen, and until they can kind of figure out what they're going to do on the 27th, 28th, and 29th, it really doesn't make any sense for them to be in a hurry, to kind of handcuff themselves as far as, those draft picks are concerned by getting Jalen locked in.
I'm going to ask you a question when it comes to paying these $50 million quarterbacks. Do you agree with me that the Baltimore Ravens, who had 3 years, Seth, to get that Lamar Jackson deal done, he's 25 years old, he has a Super Bowl, he has a unanimous MVP, he's won 75% of his football games. Do you agree with me that Baltimore is basically telling him, we don't believe that you can deliver a Super Bowl to the city of Baltimore? Do you – they put that non-exclusive on him, which means they're starting at $36 million. And if a team matches it, I think they're going to go after one of these young guys in the draft with those 2 first-rounders. So why in the world, if you're Philadelphia, you're looking at that and going, man, Baltimore does not – and Ozzy's still in the building. Help me out on doing this. Okay, well, Baltimore doesn't believe that style of play can win a Super Bowl, but Philly does, and Philly's going to pay the 50. Do you read it that way?
Not necessarily. And listen, Jalen Hurts did everything he could for, the Philadelphia Eagles to win a Super Bowl. They didn't lose because of Jalen Hurts' play. Jalen Hurts actually outplayed Patrick Mahomes. 35 points in the Super Bowl for a guy that's, there for his first time. Come on. That you couldn't ask for much more. Lamar Jackson hasn't gotten there yet. And I wouldn't go so far as to say that it's all Lamar Jackson's, fault that they haven't gotten there. That Baltimore Ravens defense has not been the Baltimore Ravens defense that we've been accustomed to watching on the field. And that's problematic. I think, Dan, there's another piece to this, and I'm just going to say it, and I'm going to say it in its totality. And it's going to shock the hell out of some people. It's going to piss some people off. But I'm going to go back to, 2 years ago when DeMaurice Smith, extended the CBA. Never in the history of the National Football League has there been a 10-year CBA, which really turns into an 11-year because they had a whole nother year in order for it to expire. I thought that was the most egregious mistake that the NFLPA has ever made. No collective bargaining agreement should ever supersede more than 3 to 5 years, ever, because there's too many economic factors that come into the mix that then begins to lock you out from a negotiating and a power standpoint. And they were in a power and a leverage position at that time. There was so much more that they could have gotten in that deal. But, give the NFL credit. They're smart. They know how to play the players. They went after the lower tier guys to give them a raise. And those guys, they know that, the protocol is to vote. And the majority of the guys that are in the National Football League aren't making the millions that we're accustomed to seeing on TV. So they voted and they approved the fact that, okay, we're gonna take a 10-year extension on the CBA. Massive mistake. Now, I say all of that to say this. The Deshaun Watson deal is still stuck in the craw of the owners in the National Football League. They are not only pissed about the deal and the guarantee, but they're pissed about the precedent that it would set moving forward, okay? And if you don't believe that there's some collusion going on when you have a former MVP that is, on the market, and you get 5 or 6 teams that need quarterbacks that immediately come out and say, "Oh, we're out of the Lamar Jackson sweepstakes." If that's not collusion, I don't know what is. And the problem with that is, Dan, is the fact that the owners are now in the most powerful position that they've ever been, because they got the players locked for the next 10 years. They got them locked. And the players have no recourse. The owners own all the power. And that is DeMaurice Smith's fault at the end of the day. Because there's no way in hell you can tell me that if a team is committed to winning, that you're not looking at a guy like Lamar Jackson and saying, "Hey, we need to go get that guy." Okay? But the NFL owners have taken a stance here that we're not going to do another Deshaun Watson deal as far as quarterbacks are concerned. We're not doing another fully guaranteed deal. We're not giving that kind of money 100% guaranteed. We're just not going to do it. And we're going to put our foot down, and the poster child of this stance that we're taking right now is one Lamar Jackson. And I feel really bad for that kid.
This is why you are the fucking GOAT. And I'm going to tell you, Seth, I brought this up earlier, that even Irsay yesterday at the owners' meetings go, "I don't have a problem with the money. I have a problem with the guarantee." Every single talk show host like you and me and everyone that's had a time in the league should be rooting for Deshaun Watson deals. Guaranteed contracts. It's how they control the players. Man, Gene Upshaw must be turning over in his freaking grave, because, Seth, that deal you talked about, Jerry Jones went like this. I talked to Steven about this. Why are the players getting 51% of the television revenue? Why? Wait a minute. They went like this. They ran the players over again, tied them up, as you said. And so now do you think they're going to try to bring the salaries down to these quarterbacks too in these negotiations? Because again, Seth, think about this. The cap is going up $16 million. The salaries are outpacing the cap increase. I mean, the only guys that are getting paid are the quarterbacks, it seems, nowadays. The market and free agency, outside of Bates, a couple other dudes. I mean, Seth, that wasn't a strong free agency day when it came to money. And I told folks, like what you just said, in Phoenix right now, you got 32 owners in a room going, "Hey, man, we need to control this." That's collusion. The owners' meetings are collusion, Seth. Mm-hmm. How much does that affect Jalen's deal?
Well, it all depends on Jalen's stance on how much guaranteed money, he wants.
Oh, so you don't think it's the base, you think it's the guarantee.
Well, listen, it always comes down to the guarantee, because, the base will be what it is. He's going to get anywhere between 40 and 50 million bucks. That's just, and maybe even 45 and 50. That's a given, because that's where the market is. You know, the Chiefs are already talking about upping Patrick Mahomes. What do you think his deal is going to look like, you know, after the deal that he just signed, you know? So if they're going to extend him, what is his yearly number going to look like? So all it does is just pushes it forward. What people don't realize is that part of the negotiating ploy of the National Football League owners is when they look at a player, they look around the league and they're trying to find and identify another player who's on the same level, same type of player, same statistics and everything, same upside, same potential, and say, well, we think that this guy, you know, is comparable to this guy.
Yep.
Okay.
We used to get those sheets, right, Seth?
Yep.
When here you are and your salary, here's the next guy's up when it comes to money. Remember, we used to get those sheets from the Players Association.
Yes. And there's a reason why. There's a reason why the salaries of the players and not the salaries of the NFL owners, you know, are out there for public knowledge, for public consumption, because they want you to know. But when they're making those comparisons, you know, a lot of times, you know, that's the baseline. That's the baseline that they're using. But, you know, it was really shocking to me, you know, that this offseason saw so few big deals, you know. I mean, there just wasn't, you know, this has been different, even with the cap going up. And let me tell you something about the cap, you know, what people don't realize is that the cap is going to continue to go up. I mean, you remember when the National Football League, I want to say maybe 5 years ago, was talking about a lockout and how they were losing money and they needed to pull some money back, you know, from the cap. Let me give you a little history about the free agency and the cap. In 1994, I was in the second class of free agency. Okay. If my memory serves me correct, that year the salary cap was $32.5 million for the same 53-man roster. Okay. Fast forward from 1993 to 2023, the cap is now going to be, in essence, $220 million for the same 53 players. Okay. So I say that so that people can understand is that the stock market goes up and down. Economies go up and down. Commodities go up and down. The NFL is one of the few industries in the world from 1993 to 2023, it's gone on a continuum up. The only anomaly was
COVID.
The COVID year when no fans were in the stadium.
And you know what's funny, Steph, about that? Revenue still went up, but for whatever reason, the owner said, well, hey, you know, the cap's got to go down. Brady even went, okay, so revenue went up, but why are we taking a pay cut?
Well, hey, listen, they're the owners for a reason. They know what they're doing, you know, and the extended CBA doesn't do anything but give them even much more power than they deserve to have. And then a guy like DeMaurice Smith has the audacity to come out talking about, you know, I think it's time for me to step away and retire. Well, you need to take your ass somewhere after that nonsense you just did to the players, because it's going to have a reverberation for players. Like there are some players, their entire career, they're going to be affected by this CBA monetarily, you know, because the teams are in the business of trying to sign you for the least amount of money that they can. Okay. Now, every single player, they got a number in mind based upon their research that they're going to spend. Okay. They're not going to go above that number, but they're surely going to try to get you way under that number. Okay. And as a player, what do? You do what they do. You look at the salaries, you look at the players, you make the comparisons of yourself against players who are being paid, and you set a worth for yourself. You know, people said, oh, CJ Gardner Johnson, he overvalued himself. No, he didn't. based upon his performance. And, people can take the PFF rankings and all that other bull crap
You mean
and
Chris
talk about it.
Collinsworth's rankings.
And you can talk about it all you want, okay? And those numbers, some of it has validity, some of it doesn't, okay? But my eyes tell me what I see. I don't need numbers to tell me what I see, okay? I saw a guy go out and make 6 interceptions while missing 4 or 5 games, okay? You're going to tell me he's not one of the top safeties in the National Football League?
Oh, I think he is.
And you're not going to tell me that he didn't believe that he was one of the top safeties? There's no way in the world why that kid shouldn't have been one of the top free safeties paid this offseason, And the thing that pisses me off the most about the whole thing is that now, the media in Philadelphia wants to make him out to be a cancer. We didn't hear any of that during the season. We didn't hear any of that from any coaches, any players, even in his departure. The two leaders on the Eagles, they didn't say anything negative about C.J. Gardner-Johnson, But now because, he didn't get what he wanted and he's no longer an Eagle and he's running his mouth, now we want to crucify the kid. Listen, Dan, I posted the other day, I'm so glad that when I played, there was no freaking social media, man. Because I'm telling you right now.
I agree with everything you're saying.
Oh, I just, these guys, these young kids, they feel
now
like
he's a locker room cancer by some, and he's this, and I'm like, I go, where is this coming from here? And I hate when people throw the gasoline on somebody because you didn't get your way. And there's even a narrative out there, Seth, that the Eagles offered him more money. That is not true. He would have taken it. You don't go. People don't realize that. You don't go to Detroit. The additional taxes, the unions. Hell, when you and I went there and played, they took a piece out of the check for like some sort of entertainment deal. I mean, nobody goes to Detroit. You take a pay cut when you go there. It is so unfair on how some of the narratives are out there. And this leads me to this with you. I think that defense is in trouble. Here's why. You lost 5 starters. White got a raise. TJ got a raise. The Eagles signed the guy that the Bears wanted to upgrade with the Eagle guy, TJ Edwards. You lose a premier safety, was a leader in interceptions. You lost depth in your D tackle position. I wouldn't have paid Hargrave 20. I kind of get the move. You're still going to lose that. I mean, Seth, then you bring in a coordinator who loves the 34. I don't know. You got 4 linebackers that can play the 34 defense right now. I mean, when you look at the personnel on this team, do you think they're as good? Do you think it's close to what it was in 22? Give me your assessment on the roster, right? See, I think they got half a team. But in the NFC, Seth, that may be good enough to keep you in the game.
Well, listen, I you bring up a good point. I'm going to defer until I see what product they put on the field. Listen, I don't know much about Desai. I don't know how good of a defensive coordinator he's going to be. I get the sense that, we're going to see the same mindset that we saw out of Jonathan Gannon. And I don't think that that's a knock on Desai. I think that's the type of defense that Nick Sirianni wants run as the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles.
So you're going to pay 2 corners, Seth, $15 million to play center field?
Hey, listen, you got to have good corners. There's no doubt about that, because no matter what you run, you better have some guys out there that can make some plays. My issue is they're incomplete, because you're trying to figure out they're going to be in a look and see scenario at the safety position, at the linebacker position, and God knows what's going to happen to defensive tackle.
They need more depth there.
What's that?
They need more depth there.
Well, they need a lot more depth there. So I can see a scenario where you get guys like Linval Joseph and a guy like Sue, somewhere down the line, you might go hunting for guys like that once you figure out that you can't stop the run. It's just,
does all the retooling, Seth, have to come through the draft because the money that Hurts is going to get and the money you're paying some of the guys? I mean, Seth, check it out. Look at the old line on the Eagles financially. You got a $15 million center. Your two tackles are north of $15 million. There's no place in the NFL where you got three offensive linemen making north of $15 million. That's going to change when the quarterback gets paid. I mean, does all this shit have to be addressed in the draft? Or maybe trades like you did with Gardner Johnson. That was a brilliant stroke by Howie last year. He got it for $800,000. Now the kid's making potentially $8 million. I mean, is it going to be the same kind of MO?
Well, listen, I believe that, when teams get to a position where you got to play the players, I'm not in that camp that you can't win unless you got a quarterback on his rookie salary. I just, Patrick Mahomes just disproved that. Okay. Is it easier? Yes. Impossible? Absolutely not. It doesn't mean that necessarily, those three offensive linemen that you're talking about are going to have to take a step back at some point either. Because in the National Football League, I believe we're moving more towards teams being offensive dominant than they are defensively balanced,
So you think defense is a luxury, Seth?
Well, there's this mindset out there that believes that, you don't win football games with defense anymore. Okay. As a defensive player, I'm more biased towards that's nonsense because, at some point in time, you got to make a stop. If you're playing against a team in a crucial game and that defense has the opposing offense's number, then that's a big deal. Okay. If you got two good corners and a great slot corner and a versatile safety and at least one linebacker that can make plays and you can rush the passer, with your defensive front, like a team like San Francisco, come on, man. Don't tell me that you can't win because of defense. There's a lot of people that believe that you win despite defenses. If you look at the Eagles defense, the way it's currently constructed, if they don't get a proven linebacker, if one of those guys that they brought in at safety doesn't just shine like CJ Gardner Johnson did last year, if the defensive front is not going to post 70 sacks again, that's an anomaly. That's just like Nick Foles throwing 27 touchdown passes and 2 interceptions in a season. That doesn't happen every day. That's an anomaly. And if you go into the season believing that that's going to be the case, you're on something. Okay. So really what has to happen is, if you're going to be offensively heavy as far as your dollars are concerned, then they better go get a number 3 wide receiver who can make some plays. They probably need one more running back. Even though some people feel like, they've got enough since they signed Penny. And the offense is going to have to, score 30, 40 points a game in order to win games because the defense is going to give up 28, 30 points a game. That's just a fact. That's just a fact. You will give up. And I said it when the season was over. I said the defense is going to look markedly different. The offense is in place. You got 2 wide receivers that are locked up. You got a tight end that's locked up. Your offensive line is locked up. Okay. You're going to get your quarterback locked up. Now, if you've got depth on the offensive side of the ball, you're talking about one of the top defenses, top 3 offenses rather in the National Football League last year. The only thing that should prevent them from being able to duplicate what they've posted this past season is injury. And you got to bank on the fact that, hey, we can stay healthy, because if you can't, then the stress goes upon the defensive side of the ball. And I don't think they're going to be able to be as strong defensively as they need to be in order to, to replicate what they did last year. It's just darn near impossible.
Finally, I want to follow up on one thing that we had with you the last time. Did the Eagles contact you at all in any way whatsoever on joining the coaching staff?
Gosh, you know that wasn't going to happen, man.
Okay, so they never reached out to you in any way when a legend like you offers his knowledge, his experience. I'm going to try to keep my job.
Well, wait a minute. Let's walk back for a second. Did you honestly expect for them to?
I think it's weak. I think it's weak because you have a personality and because you demand perfection, knowing full well you're never going to get there. You're going to learn to live with greatness. That's who you are.
But therein lies the problem. Therein lies the problem. I'm old school in that, from that perspective, because I believe that, I'll put it like this. Dan, show me one great player that doesn't like to be coached hard. There's not one. There's not a single one that I've ever played with, that I've ever known. Because you know what? The difference in players today is so different because, they get in their feelings about everything. If someone says something about them on social media, they chime in. If a coach is too hard on them, they mail it in. Okay? If you want to be great, the only way that you're going to be great is for you to be coached hard. Now there's some discrepancy about, what's coaching hard and what's not coaching hard. Okay.
Coaching hard is being honest.
We don't live in a world anymore, Dan, where people want honesty.
That's right. They'd rather be lied to.
No, people want what feels good. Okay. People want what feels good. And everything that feels good to you ain't necessarily good for you. Okay. And if you can't receive it from that standpoint, like I had the hardest coach that anyone could have to play for, because he'd talk about you in the media. He'd talk about you in the media room. He'd talk about you in one-on-one meetings in his office, but there was a reason why he did it that way, because early on in the process, he was trying to find out, did I have the mental fortitude to be a player on his team? And then once he realized I had the mental fortitude to be a player on his team and that I was one of the leaders on the team, he realized that he could motivate other players through me, because I didn't give a shit about him chirping about me. I didn't care about him ripping me a new one in the media, because guess what? That didn't do anything but motivate the hell out of me. I wanted to be coached hard because I wanted to be good. And I knew that there was certain stuff that was said that I had to take, and I had to chew on that. No matter how bitter it tastes, or no matter, how in my feelings on the inside I got into about it, I had to take that. I had to own that. But there was also some things that was said that I need to let go in one ear and write out the other.
So you think they had a problem with you being direct with their players?
No, I think that I intimidate people to a certain extent, and I don't understand, and I don't understand why. I don't understand why. And I'll tell you like this, Dan. I love the Philadelphia Eagles. I love the city of Philadelphia. And contrary to what a lot of people believe, I want them to have nothing but success. Okay? Because of my love for the city, I want them to have success. I want them to win all the Super Bowls that they can. Okay? So when I'm saying it from a position of love. Discipline sometimes, isn't looked at from a love perspective. But one who loves himself is one who is able and willing to discipline himself. Okay. What father has a son, Dan, that doesn't discipline him? He disciplines him not because he hates him. He disciplines him because he loves him and he wants him to be the best that he can be. Okay. So I intimidate people sometimes with how I come across. But who I am and how I look, the scowl on my face, and everybody thinking I'm mad. My life is so damn grand, it's ridiculous. I ain't got nothing to be.
I called you last week. You're in Mexico. You're like, don't bug me.
I got nothing. I got nothing to be mad about. Okay, but I can't help the way that I've been constructed throughout my life. Okay, so if I'm coaching a kid, yeah, I'm going to coach him hard. When I coach my son, I coached him hard. But then we get in the car after practice and I look over at him, and his panties would be in a bunch. I was like, I love you, man. I love you. So, you can wipe that scowl off your face. Even though I embarrass you in front of some of your teammates, you see me embarrass them in front of you. All 25 of y'all belong to me. And I don't want anything but the best for you guys, So if players can't look at things from that perspective, then there's a problem. And the problem is coaches acquiesce, to the mood of the players because they're so afraid of losing them. And my thing is, if you want to be a champion, then you'll do any and everything that's necessary. You'll take whatever you have to take to be a champion. You want to be great individually, you'll take whatever it is that you have to take to be great. But you got to understand and learn how to, how to divide up what's necessary for you to take and what's unnecessary for you to be in your feelings about. And a lot of people and a lot of players don't know how to do that. And I think that because I'm that way, I scare the hell out of people.
Well, it is always a privilege to have you on my program and my friend too. I'll tell you, Seth, I think sometimes people, they see what they want to hear and it frightens people a lot. And I just think you come from the heart. I don't think you come from any other place. And I want to thank you. We got to roll. Thank you again for doing this, man. I really appreciate you so much coming on our program. Thank you, my friend.
You're welcome, man. Hey, listen, all I can do is come from right here. That's all I know.
That's all you are.
In every realm and everything that I do, I come from right here. That's
Absolutely.
the only way I can wake up and look myself in the mirror every day, knowing that I'm being genuine and I'm me.
Well, you get ready because I'm gonna light that thing up on Twitter here in about 2 seconds. I'm going hard on this one. Seth, I love you, man. I'll talk to you soon, brother.
You got it, man. Take care.
All right, guys, please hit the like button. It is always awesome to listen to the great Seth Joyner. Hey, Tone, can we get that last part of the interview, them not asking Seth Joyner to be the defensive coordinator or to even be on the staff? I'd love to have that. Thank you so much, guys. Hey, Tone, was that not awesome? Seth comes from the heart. I love that guy. I appreciate him coming aboard. Thank you guys so much. We will see you tomorrow going 3 to 6, and we'll see you.